If you heard some weird noises outside of your home earlier today that sounded like some kind of haunting, like a ghost saying boo, well, rest assured it wasn't a ghost, it was probably just some people that saw the new Silent Hill movie. It has a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, which I imagine will probably be one of the lowest of the year if I had to guess. I just got home from seeing it, and I want to give you my thoughts on it. I was someone who just recently watched the first Silent Hill movie from 2006, and then the abhorrent abomination that was Silent Hill 2012, whenever that came out, where it was like all about 3D, and it was actual trash, but in an entertainingly bad sense. Every conceivable thing that could go wrong with a movie went wrong with the second Silent Hill film. I think it was called Revelation or something. And it creates kind of like a disaster masterpiece that's so bad it's good. But that first film I actually glazed. I made a whole video going over it because it is surprisingly passionate. Like, it is a film that very clearly wanted to have a faithful adaptation of the source material, and I think it succeeded for the most part. It has some problems, sure, it's got its flaws, but that first Silent Hill movie from 2006 is actually pretty solid. And the director of that movie didn't direct the second one, Revelations, which I'm sure he still goes to bed with a smile on his face every night for, because if he did direct Revelation, boy howdy, I bet he never would have landed another gig in his life. And then he came back to make this new Silent Hill film, Return to Silent Hill. This director's name is Christoph Gans, and I was cautiously optimistic that this was going to be good, even though a lot of like the behind the scenes photos weren't looking amazing. I had faith that this being the same director of the '06 movie was going to come and deliver something of high quality that Silent Hill fans and even just anyone could appreciate, really. That hopium couldn't have been more misplaced. I just finished seeing it, and it just makes me question, how the fuck is this the same guy that made that movie in 2006? Everything he did right in 2006, he must have forgotten. Maybe the Men in Black came in and neuralized him or something, I don't know. But something happened between then and now that led to Return to Silent Hill. What I will say is that I don't think it's a 9% bad. It's not nearly that catastrophic. I think the reason it's that low is because it is pretty insulting to the source material. Like, if you're familiar with Silent Hill 2, this movie is most likely going to really rub you the wrong way. This thing is going to be chafing your fucking cheeks, I bet. It's a movie that fans of the franchise will not like, and fans of good movies also will not like. I saw this movie with two friends that hadn't played the game that it's based on, and both of them had the same reaction when the credits rolled, which was, eh. Which, compared to the other reviews, may as well have been fucking 2 thumbs way up and 5 stars on Letterboxd. Most people seem to really hate it. I am more in that camp where there, for me, were very few things to appreciate about it, and I think a large part of that is because I do like the game so much, and I do like his previous Silent Hill movie significantly more. But for the sake of this review, I'm going to set those things aside to the best of my ability. We're going to be getting into spoilers, so here's your spoiler warning. One thing this movie does that I think is absolutely going to make fans dislike it and any general audience member dislike it as well is that it tries to take moments from the game and ham-fist them into this film in context that just doesn't work, which leads to a lot of ambiguity. If you've played the game, you'll recognize the scene because it plays out similar to the cutscene in the video game counterpart, but it's in a very different place for a very different reason. Really, the best way to summarize this movie, it's like watching a YouTuber try to speedrun the lore of Silent Hill 2 while ripping shots of Fireball. So there's a lot of things that they're forgetting about, and it leads to a lot of disjointed shit. Like, a great example is Eddie. Eddie is in here for actually maybe 30 seconds, and then he like punches James once or twice, and then he disappears, and he is never even referenced again throughout the rest of the movie. I think people just forgot that they ever even had that character in this movie to begin with, and I think the actor forgot he even took the role to begin with as well. Like, there are just so many things that do not work and feel out of place, but you can recognize them from the game because I guess they felt like an obligation to have game moments in this movie, but they're also putting them in this movie in a completely different sense because this movie completely rewrites a lot of the most crucial components of the game lore. So now the scenes that they're taking don't fit in the movie's lore, so everything's all fucking cattywampus and isn't really working. It's constantly clashing. So, a huge thing they change in this movie versus the game is now they introduce a cult, and Mary's father was basically the cult's god that was poisoning his daughter, and that's how she ends up getting sick. And also, it completely rewrites James and his motivation and his relationship with Mary. That completely changes in this movie for the worse. And it completely changes a lot of the scenes that they took from the game and put in the movie, because now those scenes don't work here. But even setting all of that aside, like the messiness aside, the visuals are also really inconsistent. There's a few moments that look pretty good. Like, I still think the nurses, for the most part, look good. It's clear this wasn't like a massive budget blockbuster or anything. So I know they, had fucking morsels to work with in the grand scheme of Hollywood budgets, but there are some moments that look fucking terrible. Especially when it comes towards the end of the movie. And pretty much anytime they introduce fire, it looks awful. So like the visuals get really rough, and there are some laughably bad scenes in here. Like, the very beginning of the movie, actually, there was something that made me do this in my seat. I did one of these, just out of instinct. And it's when James meets Mary, which is very different from the video game, which I understand he wouldn't be able to take this movie and make it one-to-one with Silent Hill 2. I would never expect that, and I don't even think that would be a good idea. But what you would expect is that there'd be a cohesive story told that is at least faithful to the source material, like he did for the first Silent Hill film. Anyway, though, James meets Mary because he was smoking a doobie, getting a little joint lit up in his car, got distracted and then swerved as a truck was coming towards him, and then he hits Mary's luggage, throwing the clothes all over the place. She's like, "Oh, you gotta be kidding me, I can't believe this wasn't tarnation." He's like, "Oh, I feel so bad," and it's kind of love at first sight. She has all of her bags packed, waiting for a bus. The bus shows up. Mary flags down the bus. Wait, bus driver, let me on. But because her luggage got hit with the car, one of the latches doesn't work. So once James puts the clothes back in and he's helping her carry it to the bus, it opens up and her clothes spill out again. And she goes, "Ugh, never mind, go on." And then shoos the bus away. Why would she do that? All she had to do was just carry that piece of luggage in without the latches. She would just put it under her arm, which is exactly what James did eventually too. So why would she then just completely uproot her entire plan, which she has presumably spent a long time cooking up and had to have a lot of motivation to even tempt this idea of getting on the bus, which you'll learn about later in the film. And all of a sudden she just decides, "Oh, fuck it, since the latch on my suitcase here is broken, I'll just forsake all of that and go back to my fucking existence in Silent Hill." Why? What reasonable person would do that after you've already steeled your resolve to make this decision in the first place, all because the latch on the suitcase no longer works? But anyway, that's how they meet. They fall in love. It eventually leads to them going to Silent Hill, and James witnesses some really peculiar cult activity in Silent Hill, all with these interesting characters doing weird stuff with Mary. And by interesting characters, I mean just your most generic, formulaic cult members doing weird occult shit. It's just really disappointingly lame. Like, I could go on, but I don't think there's a real reason to. Like I said, it's not a 9% bad. Like, there are some things to like about it. The music in particular, I thought they did a good job with. Like, the music is very Silent Hill, which is good. They didn't butcher that. And there's a couple of scenes that I think were pretty okay because, like, for the nurses, they once again used dancers, which worked really well in the first Silent Hill film. And there are a couple of moments where I do think, like, the practical effects they used looked good. And I also think that the actor who played James did a pretty decent job with the character, actually. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I actually thought he did fine as James. It's just, he was given quite a bit of poop to work with here, unfortunately. But his actual portrayal of the character, I thought, was pretty decent in comparison to, like, the video game counterpart. I thought he did, like, a very solid attempt at it. I just wish that the rest of the movie around it was of higher quality, is all. Oh, there's one other big thing I want to mention. I recently learned through that, like, Matt Damon interview segment or whatever it was about how, like, Netflix wants him to repeat the movie's plot multiple times for people that aren't paying attention, like on their phones. That way they can always know what's going on. So a big thing that they preach is like, you need to reiterate everything happening multiple times. This movie gave me that vibe because, like I said, there's a lot of ambiguity in this film about like what's in James' head, what's a hallucination, what's real, what's like actually happening and all of that, which you would expect means the audience would have to start paying attention and starting to think. But then the movie will always tell you exactly what's real and what's fake. They have like characters that will just verbalize the plot multiple times, like, oh, well, Mary died and, James, he's been having a hard time accepting it. James, after Mary's death, which he refuses to accept, has been making up all kinds of things in his head. It's like he doesn't even want to come back to reality. And it's like constantly telling you, like, okay, so that's a hallucination, that's fake. Okay, so that's real, that's fake. It is constantly just regurgitating the things that I would expect you would need to think about as an audience member, which was pretty annoying. And like Pyramid Head, for example, there is a scene that beats that home that this is a projection of James, where Pyramid Head gets summoned by James and then does something. I won't spoil that, I suppose. I don't know why I'm going to keep any spoilers to myself here, but Pyramid Head gets summoned by James, and then it zooms into an opening in Pyramid Head's mask, and you see James's face. And if that wasn't enough to convey the message, it then cuts to a flashback of James painting, and it's a portrait of James, and he's throwing red paint on it in the shape of a pyramid on his head. And it's like, okay, we fucking get it. Like, I don't understand why it had to, like, beat these things home, while also trying to present itself as somewhat ambiguous or even, like, artsy at points. It just doesn't... Overall, I just don't think this movie lands for anyone really, fans of the game, or even just people that want to see a good movie. I don't think this does a good job in general. But I also don't think it's 9% bad. It's not good, but it's definitely not 9%. Anyway, that's about it. Yeah.